Appamada's programs and facilities are supported through your generosity. Your support really does make a huge difference. You'll find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org/contribute. Thank you so much.
I don't really want to talk. I'd rather just be with you and look at you. See your faces. Which is actually somewhat what I will talk about, but it's not why. I was feeling it. So the piece that we've been taking as a document and an offering to be intimate with 20 Zenjis, 20 self-about. And that first little segment, it says, when I stood away, what does it say? Look at the real. Then you kind of start to know it, right? So he starts out by saying, when I look around, there's some things that I start to notice. And then what he, in this case, says that he notices helps him have some realizations. Two of the things, this realization twice. And then he pushes it and takes it to an extreme. And even when things are kind of rough, guess what? It's still the Dharma manifested. And you can realize that as well. And then at the end, towards the end, in the last bit, he turns it around, and I'll just remind you of those last bits. He says, then on each moment's flash of our thought, there will grow flower, right? And on each lotus flower will be revealed perfection. See, unceasingly manifests as what?
Our life.
Our life. Which way? Just as it is.
Right here.
Yeah. So that's an important statement, isn't it? It's that, so looking at things in this way, having certain realizations, stretching yourself to imagine even the worst, there's still awakening possibilities. Then on each moment's thought, you're going to have that spacious, grounded, open realization of what it's like to live a life full of everything that a life is, and still be willing to choose it. And then one final statement. If one can appreciate life that deeply, no matter what, may we extend this mind to all beings. You know this pretty well. So that we and the world together may attain maturity. Yeah. In the wisdom of the awakened life. I realize something I could never have realized without practice. And then I naturally want to extend it. That's why it's what it's about. And offer it. Think of a time, an actual moment, or encounter, a period, something, where you met a situation, or you were met in this Sangha, or among these Sangha members, or in some event, something, in this community, in which you can imagine yourself kind of seen in this way and nourished in this way, where you experienced the kind of kindness and care. Maybe you had experiences that were unremarkable, or just boring, or regular, or even difficult. Certainly those things can happen among all of us. But is there a moment in which you experienced the kind of basic goodness kindness or care. I'm not trying to be romantic or just looking on the bright side. You notice when it does manifest this way, because this is at the end. This is where we're coming to. And we know it's not all that. But personally, when you're like inspired or supported, or someone listened to you deeply, and it made a difference to you. It doesn't have to be extraordinary. Or when you were maybe met in a way that exemplified what appamada actually means. I don't mean appamada, I mean, diligent mindful care. And you don't have to say anything at the moment. Maybe you think of a moment or a relationship or something, So what we're going to ask you to do is gather a bit in groups of 4, probably is good. And once again, with about 5 minutes each at least, just to speak about it from your heart. And it's lovely to do so. The stronger practice in these groups is the listening part. Someone will offer a story, a vignette, a moment, and that's a gift, and they can appreciate it. But that's not about like woohoo and never. It's can you meet them in the way that Persian is talking about as they speak to you, and that kind of loving kindness, that kind of loving presence, not syrupy, not romanticized, not anything like that, just fully, openly, and notice what it does to you when you do that. And just listen to each person, hold each person that way. And then you'll have so you have 3 different people that you practice with as you offer yours, and they'll each have 3 as you offer your little story. It's not about commenting on the stories. You're going to tell your story or describe it in however way you'd like. But really, it's about how you receive each other, how a bodhisattva meets. And to understand that there are lotus flowers that blossom. You can see tough things even that manifest as your life right now, and that we want to extend this, and that's what we're going to be practicing. Does this make sense to you? It's a lovely thing to do. So once each person has offered their story, give about 5 minutes. If you don't feel the 5 minutes, just sit, that's okay. And then you can discuss a little bit, but the discussion isn't about the content of the story you told. You may say something about it, but it's more like, what was it like to listen this way? And to meet with your whole embodied self this way. What happened in you? What was your experience in the receiving and offering your presence? That's what you're going to examine and just be interested in it. Mindfully reflect on it. And if you want to say something about the story, that's okay, but we don't get caught in the content of the stories. That's not really the essence. Does it make sense? So once again, we'll have 40 minutes or so like we did yesterday, because that gives you about the right amount of time, I think, to gather, to speak, to listen, and then to do a little discussion and just see how it moves. How this little 4-person part of the Sangha move in terms of this last piece of Korean Bodhisattva Hall. You might even think, the first night when I did the review of Bodhisattvas, I talked about qualities: compassion, loving kindness, equanimity, simple joy. Talked about the practices, generosity. You've come around. And so if you don't have any other questions, we'll go forward. But if you do, I'll be happy to answer them.
Would you please talk again about what our story is supposed to be like?
Any vignette, moment, relationship where you are met in a way that is like what the word appamada or bodhicitta, bodhisattva would do. Maybe someone was kind to you, maybe they were generous to you, maybe they were patient with you in some way. Or maybe a group met you and offered you something that you didn't expect. And so you were able to, so that we in the world together maintain maturity, and something happened. We're using this way, because I want to have some fidelity to our text that are teaching. Does that make sense? It looks like even when I say it, there's something that moves in here. Yeah, see, it's right there, isn't it? Yeah, so you know, you trust that. So if you would stand up here, we'll do something for your fellow online in just a second. Okay, and find 3 more people real close to you right now to make the group.
Oh, you better.
There you go, this is number 4 right there.
Me all week.
And it doesn't require any speaking.
Yeah. Okay, we're a group.
And do you have any, we got 2 more? So just find a group. Maybe if you could be 5.
Join in.
Our dessert. Come be with you all.
Okay, and then you're gonna make groups of 4. What you say, we can get to experience any of the quality of, it doesn't have to be about what did you do, I mean, what happened. As you were with each other in this manner.
I think one of the things that arose from the people that were in the group with me was that the shared experience, when someone would say their episode and we would realize, oh, I've been there too. I've had that same experience relatively. And Lori was talking about how that is sort of the grist for the mill of connection.
Shared experience in that way.
Yeah. And that
it's important to name. It's a way, at least for me, like what you just said is an experience I've had. I'm realizing that at times. And to know that we share it, suddenly I feel like there's an intimacy. I don't mean it just feels good, that's not the point. It's like there's something now that's knitting us together a little bit.
Yeah.
In that shape of a Sangha. Maybe even some shared intentions underneath it, at least some shared experiences, common humanity, all kind of things. Thank you.
For me, the 2 things came out of our group, and that was the empathetic joy in listening to others share their experience of kindness they received and what it meant to them. It's like I felt it too.
Right.
It was their experience, and that's that shared
So you have that
experience.
sympathetic joy
Yes.
and empathic. There's also, I mean, the word comes out of Hakomi, but it's really useful, I think, in terms of Buddhist practice of non-egocentric nourishment.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nourishment that doesn't have anything to do with the ego. It's just natural.
Yeah.
And that's very, it's clean.
Very, very, very nourishing. And the other thing was the remembered gratitude that continues to stay with you when you talk about an experience like that. It's like you remember it so clearly, and the gratitude is as strong now as it was when it happened, whether it was last week or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
How important that is when someone offers you that kind of kindness. It stays with you.
You know, when we touch that essential nature of kindness, whether it feels like a kindness, a compassion, even if we call it love sometimes, it's outside of time. There's something about those qualities that you tell the story now, but if we're shaped a little differently as a result of even that small thing, and then that shape comes with us, even if that the memory fades.
So it's the same with trauma, right? If you feel it, experience it, and present moment experience, So I think of this kind of experience as counter trauma.
That's a great idea.
Well, right, the first person who spoke said something about you saying something to them. You don't have to be a Buddhist, you could be a Buddha.
Mhm.
And then I heard, I said 4 Buddhists, but they
Yeah,
said
there
5,
they were.
whatever. They were all such little things, and it reminded me of Wordsworth's thing, little unremembered acts of kindness and of love, or unremembered acts of kindness and of love. And they all, and I thought this yesterday too, that these things all came after some adversity.
Mhm.
And that was always interesting, something that flipped.
Yeah, you see the relief of suffering in it, and it comes from small things. It doesn't have to be grand, but the relief, in the moment that you feel the relief, you're fully released. That may not last forever, it may not touch, but you're fully in that moment. Like if you're laughing at something, it's something that's truly funny, not harsh or aggressive. In that moment, you can't be depressed. And at that moment when you really feel, at least for the moment you feel the nirvanic moment, that was a nirvanic moment. I was really free of reactivity in that moment.
Well, I've noticed that with the smile, and
Yeah.
playing with that in terms of meditation and smiling, and that somehow I can't have any thought but a smiling thought. When it's not.
And that's different than deluding yourself or just managing something.
It's a chemical. I can feel the chemicals
Yeah.
change.
You can also do that. You can play like everything's okay when it's not, but that's not what we're talking about. So, thank you. Oh, yes, please.
Well, in my very beautiful group, there was, I would say that there were examples where each of us described kind of going into a situation with a kind of a misunderstanding, and then meeting another person who met us with kindness and offered an opportunity for repair, and that transformed the relationship, and in my case, it certainly transformed me. And that it's just an example of what you're pointing to, and I wanted to put it in those words.
It's beautifully said, though, the way you just said it touched me. Nicely said. One of the things when we were talking, it's like, it's really so wonderful to hear from you, but we don't have to do a lot of talk about, because you did it. You already had that. But it's just good for us, good nourishment for us to hear a little bit from you. So I appreciate your doing that. Do you want to say something else?
Do you have time? Okay,
We'll make time.
just that I loved how we've kind of talked about this with the sympathetic joy, but a lot of times it's like, it's my journey with Appamada, and I write in my journal about all I'm learning from Appamada, and I needed such a nice break from that more self-centered.
Yeah.
It broke it open into this like multiplicity of shining little sparkles everywhere that are all happening at the same time with everybody, and so that was kind of fun. It like burst open my singular Appamada experience into this gorgeous kind of blossoming of all these things happening at the same time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's interesting. I'm going to say it, and this may not sound very nice, but I'm going to say it. But we say the self-centered dream, but that also can be actually about our practice and how it's going. Like, oh, it's my practice. And that's a bad thing, but it's limited, and you realize, wow, this is happening. And unless we speak and reflect each other, we don't realize it. Then that knits things together in a different way, so that when things stretch that fabric, and maybe sometimes even torn, then we have the capacity for repair because we have the experience that's shared. So, that's great.
This will be very brief.
if I've learned nothing here from all of you, it is this, that conflict and meeting conflict deepens relationships and care, which is what you just said.
Yeah.
But
It's
it
going
never,
well doesn't actually deepen relationships that much. It deepens joy. It's repair when it's broken that deepens relationship.
and many of us were raised in situations where things broken, we throw it out.
Yep.
And so thank you all.
Or there's no path to repair. There's just no path.
So let's walk together with that.
Prepare for Kenyan.